one of the things that makes this interesting is that you look around and you go, hey, man, this is a really good Cowboys defense on all metrics. However, watching these games, it's been hard for me to shake something that I feel like I've been seeing with this Cowboys defense.
Oh, you want to share it?
Yeah, of course, man. It's the safeties. So one thing and you look at it during this last game against the Seattle Seahawks, ultimately, this pass rush is going to deliver for you. Micah Parsons is going to deliver for you. DeMarcus Lawrence going to deliver for you, right? And we could keep talking about Big Bank Hank, also Digizua, who's getting up the field at a great rate and really knifing into that backfield, showing his work. Like, this defensive line is really good. We spent a lot of time talking about these linebackers. The quarterbacks have been great when you talk about, obviously, Deron Bland with all these interceptions and pick sixes. The safeties have left a little something to be desired, and it's been talked about a little bit, but is this an issue for the Cowboys, particularly in this week, but also like overall for them? Because it felt like it was displayed in a big way against the Seattle Seahawks, who did not look scared one bit to attack you down the field. Now, they have the personnel to do this. We talk about the speed and the size of someone like a DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba with the speed more than the size. Tyler Lockett, who is a fantastic route runner. Like, they had no fear to allow Geno Smith to hit you over the top, and they did it a lot, and they did it very well. And I think that pointed to, and I know a lot of people went to Deron Bland, but I definitely looked at this safety play, and I was like, this is not, I mean, the first one was Donovan Wilson, who was in coverage in a way that I don't typically imagine seeing him in coverage, and he did not cover himself in glory. And so, do you, Chris Arnold, look at these Cowboys safeties and see them as some level of level of an issue for them?
Put it like this: they were a strength last year. And in fact,
100%.
The quarterback of the defense goes by the name of Jaron Kearse.
Yes, green dot on the back of his helmet.
Green dot on his helmet. He's the guy that's been calling the plays, and he is a huge leader in that locker room. He actually missed the Thanksgiving game because of back spasms. He played a lot last year through injury and was a beast. And Donovan Lewis.
Jordan Lewis?
Donovan Wilson.
Donovan Wilson?
Donovan Wilson.
You mixed both of them.
Although,
if we could combine them into one dude,
yes,
that'd be a really interesting player.
Yeah.
Not what we're doing here, but
no,
just a thought.
Dono led the team in tackles. And I was told by Tank Lawrence, because I was like, I don't like the fact that the safety led the team in tackles. That means too many people getting down the field. He goes, no, Dono's making behind the line of scrimmage tackles too. He's all over the place. He's just all over the place.
He's just a missile.
And Marquise Bell is playing his best ever. So I like the fact that they're doing all right. Now, Bell is more of a linebacker.
Yeah, he's playing linebacker at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. The way Dan Quinn uses these safety, a lot of them are like, he has what he calls a big nickel package.
Yes.
Where these safeties play like corners, and they'll be in the slot sometimes. Well, if they're not the strength, they have been out of position this year. And Seattle took advantage of it because they said Geno Smith was getting rid of the ball quicker than he had all year long. There's no game than that game right there, they had the quickest release. It's like he wasn't even surveying the field. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and just took it from the Cowboys. And I'm like you, I'm like, that's the safety's fault. They were out of position, and that's why those chunk plays kept turning into chunk plays. And then you also have to throw in the fact that what's his name is a beast, wide receiver.
DK Metcalf.
DK, pick your poison. Who would you rather have? Both of them are fearful. DK or Debo, because both of them are big and strong.
Yeah, give me Debo Samuel. Like, he has a little bit more of this change of direction in a better way. But no, it's not a bad choice to have to make. But like, this game, I thought was illustrative of something that feels like it's been happening all year. You mentioned Jaron Kearse. Jaron Kearse last year felt like he was somewhat of a cheat code. You could put him on an opposing tight end, and it felt like he would lock them down.
Right.
You haven't seen that this year. In fact,
and maybe that's his back.
It's possible. It is possible. All these guys, it feels like, got paid recently, and I'm not trying to say they got paid and thus they are bad, but it's really inconvenient that you're seeing a lesser play from these guys.
Or are they older? Like Hooker's older.
Yeah, and he's had injuries rob him of like really great play. I mean, before being injured,
with Colts,
an incredible player with the Colts. And even then, you've seen some of that play. There's a reason why all these guys got their money from these Cowboys. They've given you really good play. It's just been a little disappointing seeing them this year. And one of the tough things about it is safety play. There's not really easy metrics that you can look at and go, okay, well, this is how you judge them per se. However, I'm trying to utilize, and I'm going to lean on Pro Football Focus here. Now, I understand Pro Football Focus gets a bad rap for some folks, but rock with me here. I will give you the more subjective Pro Football Focus rankings or ratings, right? Like the ways that they view this. I'll also give you passer rating against, which is a little bit less, a little bit less subjective in the ways that I think some people have some questions with the way that Pro Football Focus grades. And this will be a little bit more closer to, the passer rating given up against them, even though that is not really an exact science in a way. But we'll try and pair these together. I looked at all the safeties in coverage when we talk about and the coverage grades that they have. And I mean all the safeties in NFL football to this point. The highest graded one is Wanye Thomas, who's literally the 5th highest graded in coverage at an 83.2. Now that is the metric that is given by Pro Football Focus. After that, Donovan Wilson is a 78.9, which is good for tied for 10th in the league. You got to scroll for a little bit before you get to the next one, who is Malik Hooker, who is the 44th ranked safety when we talk about coverage, 67.7 as a grade. And of course, it's a 100 scale. The thing that worried me on top of that, right? Like I said, those are the Pro Football Focus grades. Maybe you think that that's an exact science. The passer rating against Malik Hooker this year has been a 125.0, which means they're doing a good job, which means he's not doing as good of a job as you want. The passer rating against Donovan Wilson is a 136.6, which means they're doing a good job, which means he's not doing necessarily a good job. Wanye Thomas, 109.7. Better, but still not necessarily the job that you want. Let me see if I can find Jaron Kearse because I ain't seen him yet. And when we talking about grades, and so like
I said, he's an impact guy from last year.
His is a 48.9 on the grade. Again, this is a 100 scale, and that's a Pro Football Focus. And so like ultimately, now for some reason his passer rating is significantly lower when we talk about against. But all of this, and that was all in man coverage. When we talk about zone, it's all lower for these guys, the grades. And so with all of that being said, this is again not an inexact science, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, yo, this is a problem because like you already have, and this is like more coverage that we're talking about, right? The linebackers have been good about getting downfield and getting in and trying to make the run fits and whatever. In coverage, Marquise Bell has been solid, but you need those safeties, especially when you're playing 3 of them at a time.
Yes, you do.
To play well. And with you see them not playing well, it really concerns me, especially when you look at teams that are going to attack you over the middle.
Yeah, they will exploit that.
And teams that I think are going, well, the Niners do a great job of attacking you in the middle. The Eagles are also one of those teams that like running these deep ends and deep overs and stuff, and they have the speed with A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith to attack you. And that's one of the things that's really concerning, not just for like the regular season, but where you want to go is through teams like that, and they are going to be exploiting play of the safeties that feels like it has not been up to the standard that they established for themselves.
See, this is why when people say, oh, they played Seattle too close and they should have been blowing them out. Remember that spread was like 9.5 points. McCarthy said it best. You want games where there's some adversity so you can see who you got, so you can see what you're dealing with, because you can see who's in the foxhole with you, so you can sort out what is our weakness. Be glad you played a close game against Seattle now so that you can tweak this thing and figure out, can you make those adjustments? And you won the damn game, too. You also came back from behind. First time they had been behind in the fourth quarter at home all season. So they came back. And, again, this is just saying what you just noticed. Those coaches looked at those numbers.
Yeah, and obviously this team seems to do a really good job of self-scouting. And from the 682 who says these numbers are kind of fluff, I watched the games and I don't remember watching games saying, man, they're killing Hooker. This is why it's really tough to grade safeties. If you do not know exactly what their responsibilities are, it's really tough to grade them. Right. We don't get a good job.
I'll give you one.
Yeah.
When Deron Bland got burnt by
DK Metcalf. Yeah.
That wasn't really on him, but it looked like it was on him. It was on the safety who cheated too soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Donovan Wilson. Also, when I say that, right, in talking to various people around, because I have not felt comfortable just kind of levying this myself. I really wanted to lean on some of the eyes of other people that I trust, and talking to a few people, they're like, yeah, this has been a little bit of an issue. Malik Hooker's been okay, right? The non-Malik Hookers have had a little bit of an issue, haven't been as good as you really want them to be, but Malik Hooker's been okay. Now, again, even then, these guys have played better than okay. And so ultimately, the idea that this is a defense first team, you need to be on your P's and Q's. And right now they are not in the way that you really would want to. And I think some of that is you could get away with this, especially if that defensive line is really doing their thing.
Right.
But what happens if they're not getting pressure? Like it seemed like for a little bit of time during that Seahawks game, they weren't. They can get attacked.
We got a Tolo, Get Right Tolo has an interesting point on some of these numbers, how they could be skewed. 682 says, when you're blowing out teams like we have been doing, the other team just throws the ball all game trying to come back, and it kind of messes up those numbers compared to other teams.
I mean, sure, but like this is more qualitative than quantitative as well. It's the quality of play that we're talking about than simply the amount of yards. Because again, yes, I imagine the passer rating will shift in some ways because of but there's been instances where you're blowing out teams and they're not picking up yards or picking up points necessarily, right? Like this is not exactly just that they're getting torched in garbage time. I think ultimately, especially people that I know are like grading this off of play and not just looking at, oh, well, they're getting torched in garbage time. And I'm not basing this solely on numbers. It's just because there's not really a great way to express what's happening. This is just kind of to hope that you can get a little bit of a feel for it. But ultimately, they have not been as good as you want them to be. And what's tough about that is not just, okay, there's a part of your defense that's weak or weaker than it has been. Last year, that was a legitimate strength.
Yeah, it was a strength.
And that's the thing that gets me is like the vaunted defense that we've seen from them. Part of that is when you have J-Ron Kearse playing at great places, when you have Donovan Wilson firing and getting into run fits and such. And it's when you have Malik Hooker back there being a ball hawk, and you haven't seen them be as good as they should be.
And it could wind up to bite you, especially if you don't have enough linebackers healthy. And that's the problem they're dealing with right now. Not enough linebackers. So where's that strength out there in the secondary? It used to be the safeties. And now all you can say is, well, we got a couple of good corners.
Yeah. And so hopefully they'll continue to play better as this goes along. And look, to make it very obvious that I'm not just pulling this out my keister. When we brought this up in Crosstalk, Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus said what immediately? Yeah. All right, he agreed with me in an instant.
Immediately.
And this is something that we don't have to, play with kid gloves here. And I don't think that we should, because this is a team that we have a lot of expectation for, especially this side of the football.
Right.
We've given them a lot of praise.
Again, you're not saying that the safeties suck. You're saying they used to be the strength, and now they're a little more than average at the most.
And so, look, I think this might low-key be an issue, and this is an opportunity for them to, maybe shut me up if you come out against the Eagles. And, of course, your pass rush will help you out getting after Jalen Hurts and the likes. But you've got to hold your own, and there's some big guys that are going to be coming across the field, and you're going to need to help the like of Stephon Gilmore and Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis. And those guys, I imagine that they're going to need to show up strong. And I know that they are going to want to show up strong because they take pride in their work.
And thank goodness Jordan Lewis showed up a little bit this last game.
Absolutely.
Because he had been MIA for a minute. I love the guy.